Anti-communism is a 20th century movement of opposition to both the ideology of communism and, more particularly, its practice by the Soviet Union and the People's Republic of China. This movement was deeply ingrained in the fabric of many societies, with roots stretching across continents and through varied political spectrums. One can trace its tendrils back to the fear of the Red Scare in the early 1900s CES, where the dread of Bolshevism taking hold in the Western world laid the groundwork for the anti-communist sentiment. An important opponent of communism, with its enduring influence and global reach, was the Roman Catholic Church. Its moral and religious objections to atheistic communism were steadfast. The Church's staunch anti-communist stance, regardless of geopolitical changes, echoed throughout the 20th century. Equally, the United States fervently opposed communism, its Cold War politics, and the Truman Doctrine, serving as clear evidence of its anti-communist posture. However, the primary antagonists of communism during the first half of the century were not solely the Church or the states, but rather the fascist movements that emerged in Europe. These took root predominantly in Spain, Italy, and Germany, where leaders like Franco, Mussolini, and Hitler capitalized on fear and economic instability to rise to power. Their iron-fisted rule and adoption of fascist ideologies meant a vehement rejection of communism, further fueling the anti-communist sentiment of the time. But the main opponents in the years in the first half of the century were the fascist movements in Spain, Italy, and Germany. Germany's defeat in the Second World War concluded the necessity for an American-Russian alliance and marked the commencement of the Cold War, an era of high political tension between the two global superpowers, each challenging the other for ideological influence around the world. The end of World War II brought not peace, but a new kind of global conflict, with America and Russia on opposing sides, each touting their own political ideologies. The Cold War was not so much a war, but a struggle for power and dominance played out on the international stage. The unique conflict was marked by a series of proxy wars, where the two superpowers would support opposing sides in regional conflicts, thus indirectly engaging in warfare. The Korean Peninsula became a battleground between communism and democracy. The ideological battle extended to the distant corners of Southeast Asia, where nations were torn apart by the fight for control. Africa too became chessboard for these superpowers, influencing the political landscape. In the rugged terrains of Afghanistan, a fierce struggle unfolded that would have implications for decades. The Middle East, rich in oil and strategically significant, was another front in this invisible war. Lastly, Latin America could not escape the influence of this power struggle and also became a site of conflict. Hence, the end of World War II saw the start of war and conflict, either directly or by proxy, in locations such as Korea, Southeast Asia, Africa, Afghanistan, the Middle East, and Latin America. Meanwhile, anti-communist movements began taking root in the various European satellite states of the Soviet Union, setting off a ripple of change across the Eastern Bloc. These movements, deeply entrenched in the hearts and minds of the people, embodied their craving for democracy, freedom, and self-determination. Unyielding in the face of oppressive communist regimes, these movements sprang up, one after the other, from the bleak landscape of East Germany to the bustling cities of Poland. They were a beacon of hope, a clarion call for change, and a testament to the indomitable spirit of the people living under the Iron Curtain. It was a period of intense political upheaval and ideological conflict, a time when people dared to dream of a future free from the shackles of communism. From East Germany to Poland, their voices echoed, their courage burnt bright, and their resolve remained unshaken. Following the dissolution of the Soviet Union in the year 1991, the widespread sentiment of anti-communism seemingly lost much of its raison d'etre. This monumental shift in global politics was not just a geopolitical phenomenon, it marked a significant change in the ideological landscape of the world. A fierce rivalry between the proponents of capitalism and the advocates of communism had been the modus operandi of international relations for much of the 20th century. The end of this Cold War era had profound implications, not only for the primary actors involved, but for nations worldwide that had been swept up in this ideological warfare. The nations situated in Central and Eastern Europe, once held firmly in the grip of Soviet influence, found themselves suddenly cast adrift in an uncharted sea of socio-political transformation. This vast region, burdened by decades of autocratic rule and economic stagnation, was now tasked with transitioning to market-oriented economies, challenging process fraught with uncertainty, instability, and inevitable resistance. The dawn of the 21st century ushered in new challenges for these fledgling democracies. The dream of unbridled economic prosperity remained elusive as nations grappled with the realities of economic liberalization. The complexities of free markets, coupled with the lingering effects of previous economic systems, led to widespread hardship. Such economic difficulties gave rise to a sense of disillusionment among the populace, leading to a fertile ground for the resurgence of ideologies that promised egalitarian ideals. And it is in this context that the once repressed communist parties began to re-emerge. They were seen as an alternative, a beacon of hope to the economically distressed masses, promising social justice and economic equality. Despite the end of the Soviet era, anti-communism did not fully disappear. Economic hardship in Central and Eastern Europe in the 21st century has led in some countries to a resurgence of communist parties. The ideological battle, it seems, is far from over.